Your sports talk worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Man, I've been messing with this thing so much. I forgot that. We're gonna talk about. Hold up. I put my. There you go. There we go. Now we're gonna talk about Povetkin versus Dillian Whyte. Two heavyweights, two bad boys, right? Good first fight was awesome. Well, you had Dillian Whyte winning the fight and then gets hit by a peach of an uppercut, right? This fight is not one of the fights that I will boycott because I'm want to see it. But what I do not like is the narrative of what will happen to the winner, right? We're talking about the winner should get Deontay Wilder and things like that. I don't think so, right? Especially if it's Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte shouldn't. First of all, that first fight was an eliminator, which means actually Dillian Whyte was eliminated, right? But he's going to get a rematch, and he got an immediate rematch, and whatever. It's nothing to complain about. But when it comes to Dillian Whyte, right? And this is the reason why when this fight happens, I don't really care who wins this fight, right? It's like two guys who've been doped before on multiple occasions, not once, right? That's why when I did my pound for pound, I made sure that anybody that's doped twice means they were really doped. Once it can happen. So they were both doped twice. Who knows if it's even doping tests in Gibraltar right now? Who knows? I've noticed in certain fights we don't talk about that. Same thing that happens with Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo. Both multiple doped guys. And I don't know if they're going to be having dope tests for their May 5th fight. And that means something. Most of the time, doping does mean cheating, guys. That's what that means. No matter if you like your guy or not. That means, hey, I better cheat, right? Now, I will say this too, like when I was talking about Lance Armstrong or Jan Ulrich or something like that, when you're talking cycling, hey, their point is if everybody was doping, then what I'm supposed to do? Or sprinting, when 90% of them are dope, so whatever. But when boxing, you're hitting somebody on the head. You're not running next to them or cycling next to them. You're hitting them on the head. I think that doping, it has to be out totally of boxing. It's too dangerous. But, when you're talking about these guys, this is going to be a good fight. It's one of them fights. It's a heavyweight fight where it's going to be on. I'm not going to say who I think is going to win this fight. Well, why not? I think that Dillian Whyte will probably get this guy out of here this time. But I think that Povetkin is a live dog. I think Povetkin could possibly stop him again. And the reason being is because Dillian Whyte is going to get hurt once or twice in the fight. Right? He's pretty much that happens all the time. And I think that with the confidence that Povetkin has and the weight, he could possibly stop Dillian Whyte. I think Dillian Whyte probably on points or Povetkin will knock him out. But see, I'm on both sides of the fence. So what is that? What do I know? Let's just sit back and enjoy this fight. The winner, especially if it's Dillian Whyte, my point is simply he should get Ortiz. Right? Ortiz is higher on the WBC list than him. Ortiz is number 1 or number 2 right now by the WBC. He's been mandated to fight Dillian Whyte on multiple occasions, right? And he hasn't wanted to fight Ortiz. Therefore, Dillian Whyte is still able to run around. He sounds like Trump to me. He can run around and still say 1,000 days I was the mandatory, and that's not true. He became the mandatory after the Oscar Rivas fight, which we'll get to, right? So therefore, he wasn't, but he still says it. And I hate that. A lot of people say, well, move on with things. And I try to tell people I'm not a move on type of guy, right? I'm not a move on type of guy. I won't move on with Deontay Wilder and Glovegate with Tyson Fury, right? Because if those gloves are messed up, then that's a huge crime, and we have to deal with that. And if Deontay Wilder's delusional, just was putting out allegations, then we have to deal with him too. But that problem has to be dealt with. We won't move on. Franchise title, which I'm going to be mentioning in my next video. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. Do not move on. No, that thing is going to be called Charlo Belt forever. But I'm not going to get into that right here. Or the insurrection, when the people are going to destroy the democracy, right? The Constitution of the United States. No, we don't move on after that. Those are huge things. We settle it, and people pay for what they've done, and then we move on. Right? So Dillian Whyte's not going to be sitting here talking about 1,000 days. Trump talking about the election fraud or the Dominion machines were messed up. Right? Right. Well, what's happening now? They're getting lawsuits, $1 billion lawsuits. Those are consequences for telling a whole part of the United States who wanted to hear something like that, hey, those machines are messed up, and they're not. So defamation of character. That's what something has to happen. Those are the things. So Dillian Whyte with this 1,000, he gets away with saying that in England. You know, I've been waiting 1,000 days. That's not even true. The WBC doesn't even correct them. Like, man, we mandated you. We shouldn't even be talking to you if the WBC really. We mandated you Ortiz. You ignored it. We mandated you Brazil. And you ignored it. So what are you talking about days? You know, and then Deontay Wilder. You should have got Brazil. You would have got Deontay Wilder. You would have fought Ortiz. You would have got Deontay Wilder. And speaking of Deontay Wilder, he told you as well. Fight Ortiz and you get me automatically. So stop it with that. No, he shouldn't get Wilder after the damn Povetkin fight. Go fight Ortiz, or better yet, Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter beat Povetkin. He got a draw, but we all know he beat Povetkin. So what happens to Dillian Whyte? He takes the easier one, Povetkin. Povetkin, he's known in England, right? You know, he's known. People, he had a good fight with Anthony Joshua. I can go in there and take him instead of Michael Hunter, and got beat. Just like Lomachenko did when he didn't want to fight Devin Haney and took Teofimo Lopez instead. Mike Tyson took Holyfield instead of Lennox Lewis. And those instead fights can get you hurt. Right? So Michael Hunter should be the one who gets the winner of this, seeing as though I beat Povetkin. Povetkin has to readdress that normally, but he probably won't because Michael Hunter is a Negro League fighter. Now, what about Oscar Rivas? Oscar Rivas had Dillian Whyte down now, didn't he? Had a good fight with Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte was doped on that fight and didn't even tell Oscar Rivas, which why we are moving on from that. That is a crime. If you were told before the fight you were doped, you have to tell your opponent to give them the opportunity to say yes or no to the fight. They didn't. That's huge, guys. That's nothing to just brush over and keep on moving. Now, I think the reason why I think Oscar Rivas and his people got paid. That's why they're not so loud about that. And if that's the case and they're cool with it, then it's cool. Then as long as, because when you get paid, that means everybody in your family eating. Right? No problem with that. But something had to be done. But if Dillian Whyte was doped in that fight, and barely won it doped, then readdress it. So my point is, after this fight, Dillian Whyte should be fighting, if he wins, Ortiz, Hunter, or Rivas. And the same with Povetkin, with either one of those. If Povetkin wins, then he's in the WBC high. Then he should be fighting Ortiz because he's not higher than Ortiz. Michael Hunter because he didn't beat Michael Hunter, and or Oscar Rivas, who's trying to get a Bridgerweight title, and would fight Povetkin in a heartbeat. That's what should happen, right? So let's see what happens going forward. We can all watch this fight. Let's just enjoy Alexander Povetkin versus Dillian Whyte. It's a good heavyweight scrap. And, something going to happen. I think it's going to be a little bit of drama. I do think that Dillian Whyte's going to be more careful early, right, until fatigue sets in. And we do know this about Dillian Whyte. If Dillian Whyte is in the house, there is going to be a damn fight. So enjoy. Domo Sports Talk worldwide. And I'm about to hear you.